Hello everybody, how are you today? This is our fourth video of this week, and I was talking about Turkey's most famous castles and palaces. And last lesson I was talking about Edirne Palace. And I'm going to continue. The main building of this palace was called Cihan Nüma Kasrı. In English, it's panoramic pavilion. Consisting of the Sultan's room, flag room, library, masjid, and other rooms. To the south of this pavilion, there are three adjacent pavilions that were added for Mehmet IV, Mustafa II, and Ahmet III. As a continuation to these buildings, there were harem rooms for the Valide Sultan, Queen Mother, the four Sultan wives, the Şehzade rooms, prince rooms, the Cariye concubine rooms, and the officers and guards rooms, and an infirmary, which means klinik, revir. O zamanlarda şifahane gibi kelimeler kullanılıyor burası için. And the reception hall. West to the pavilion, in front of the reception hall, a gate called Bab-ı-Sade was situated. Particularly in 2001, archaeological work started at the palace's gate, the Felicity Gate, and the site of the reception hall. Sponsored by the National Palaces Administration, restoration works completed in 2004. It is projected that the entire palace building will be restored for use as an international congress center. In 2000, archaeological works were undertaken at Kum Kasrı Hamamı, Sand Pavilion Bathhouse, and around, which revealed the existence of water supply system. O zamanlar için güzel. Evet. Built by Mehmet the Conqueror, the simple bathhouse has three bath sections as the sıcaklık, caldarium, ılıklık, tepidarium, and soğukluk, frigidarium, under three small domes with an ayvan. Ayvan in Turkish it's eyvan arkadaşlar. Eyvan üstü kapalı, üç tarafı üstü örtülü, üç tarafı kapalı, tek tarafı açık bir mimari yapı biçimi anlamına geliyor. The bathhouse was connected to the palace with a walkway. Well, south to the main courtyard, Matbah-ı Amire, Imperial Kitchen, was situated. It's a long, stretched rectangular plan building under 8 domes. Well, erected in 1561 by Süleyman the Magnificent, who is also called as Süleyman the Lawmaker, the Kasr-ı Adalet, Justice Pavilion, is the only structure as part of the palace complex which remained intact. In the form of a rectangular tower with a pointed metal roof, it is situated next to the tiny Fatih Bridge over the Tunca River. Named after Süleyman the Lawmaker, the Kanuni Bridge over the Tunca River connects the palace garden to the city. Built in 1553 and 1554, it's 60 meters long and has 4 arches. And there is also a hunting lodge, Av Köşkü, in this palace land. It was built in 1671 by Mehmet IV, who was also known Mehmet the Hunter. This hunting lodge is partly intact. It is also called Bülbül Köşkü in Turkish also. Well, it is in use today after restoration in 2002. Okay. The main palaces of our country, of Turkey, are these ones. And now I would like to talk about the most famous, most known castles, fortresses of Turkey. The first one is Anatolian Fortress, Anadolu Hisarı. Okay. Anadolu Hisarı nasıl olmuş, ne zaman olmuş görelim bakalım. Well, When the Turks arrived in Üsküdar under the rule of Orhan Gazi, the Ottomans became a major player on the forefront. Along with the Ottomans, there had been three other strong powers that had deep desires of controlling the Bosphorus, and these are the Venetians, Genoese, and the Byzantines. And naturally, a political dogfight started between the powers. And relations between the Byzantines and Ottomans weren't that great, as you know. Well, the tension started on the Bosphorus shores at the beginning of the 1390s. The Byzantine Emperor Ioannis Palaiologos ordered a construction aiming to fix the city walls of Constantinople. This action by the Byzantine Emperor made the Ottoman Sultan, who was busy in Anatolia, very angry and led him to insult the Byzantine Emperor. Sultan Bayezid then requested a demolition of that part of city walls. Emperor Ioannis Palaiologos was in desperation because his son Manuel Palaiologos, the only heir of his throne, was in Bursa to join Sultan Bayezid's Anatolian assault. Having no other choice, the repaired parts of the city walls were demolished. The Byzantine emperor eventually died, and the moment he died, the moment that Manuel Palaiologos, his son, heard the news of his father's death, he escaped from the Ottoman palace in Bursa and arrived in Constantinople to ascend the throne and finally began to rule the Byzantine Empire. And Sultan Bayezid had sent a messenger to him this time to ask that a Turkish town to be built in Constantinople along with a mosque and a kadı to be at the head of this town. The Sultan's requests were immediately declined, and consequently, Sultan Bayezid began to establish his permanent rule over a series of villages on the European coast, thanks to an alliance with Genoa. Therefore, Emperor Manuel Palaiologos was locked inside the city walls, and his rule was recognized only in Constantinople, but not outside anymore. Still, Ottoman Sultan had a great interest in taking Constantinople from him. By keeping the emperor locked inside the city walls with no access to the outside world, he would eventually run out of food and forcing him to take action. And thus, Sultan Bayezid became the first Ottoman Sultan who besieged Constantinople. His war against Constantinople continued between 1390 and 1402, and during this period, the Ottomans besieged Constantinople 4 times. In preparations for his sieges of Constantinople, Sultan Bayezid ordered the construction of the Anadolu Hisarı, known as the Anatolian Fortress in English, and he had already known the best location for his castle, and it was the site of the ancient Jupiter temple on the narrowest point of the Bosphorus, which is 660 meters. Well, the construction of this fortress began on the Aegean shore and was completed almost in a year between 1394 and 1395. Anatolian Fortress was composed of an inner square castle surrounded by walls on all sides and strengthened by a few towers. The main castle was a quadrangle design, and its wall thickness changed between 2 and 3 meters. The 3 towers were all designed differently with different shapes, such as a horseshoe, half round, and cylindrical. Well, it was designed to cope with the catapults, mancınıklara dayanacak şekilde yapılmış, and similar siege engines. Siege engine arkadaşlar kuşatma makineleri demek. Thus, Sultan Bayezid was able to control the Bosphorus, which would eventually help him enter Constantinople. In the spring of 1452, across the waters from the Anatolian Fortress, Sultan Mehmed II built the Rumelian Fortress in order to guarantee the control of Bosphorus. During the construction, some changes were made in the Anatolian Fortress as well. After the conquest of Constantinople in 1453, this small fortress lost its importance and became a prison for the guilty Janissary soldiers, which in turn became a residential small village in later years. After the foundation of the Turkish Republic, the Istanbul municipality restored the Anatolian Fortress. The importance of Anatolian Fortress was and still is crucial for the history of Ottoman Empire. The Anatolian Fortress is the oldest Turkish architectural structure built in Istanbul. It's smaller in size when you compare it with the Rumelian Fortress on the opposite side of Istanbul. It is now an open-air museum, but only the outer walls can be seen. So the best you can do is buy some börek or simit and a Turkish tea, sit on the nearby bench in the park next to castle, and enjoy your time here. Okay, this is the Anatolian Fortress, and now it's time for a sister, right? Anadolu Hisarı'nı anlatınca Rumeli Hisarı'nı anlatmamak olmaz arkadaşlar. Evet, hemen karşısında yapılmış. Bakalım niye yapılmış, ne zaman yapılmış, tamam mı? Evet, Rumeli Hisarı, Rumeli Fortress. Sultan Mehmed II had a clear role, conquering the Christian Constantinople, and embracing thus the prosperous city into the Ottoman Empire. It was for this purpose that he ordered the construction of Rumeli Hisarı, Rumeli Fortress, which was completed in just 4 months. The building was between April 1452 and August 1452, just 4 months. As a military fortress aimed at controlling the naval traffic on the Bosphorus, in order to avoid any goods provision to the city by enemy vessels, this would have impeded an effective siege. The structure, in fact, was built on the narrowest part of the channel in the European side, this time, right in front of another fortress situated in the Asian bank, which is Anatolian Fortress, so that every single enemy boat attempting to pass the channel had no chance to remain unnoticed and safe. Well, the whole fortress plan seems to belong to the architect Muslihuddin Ağa, and it is made up of 3 main towers, whose names are the ones of the pashas who ordered their construction: Zanos, Saruca, and Halil Pasha towers. There are in total 15 towers of different sizes and shapes, linked by the walls, and 5 doors in the fortress. The whole structure, anyway, has been restored several times during its long history, in particular after the earthquake in 1509. Rumeli Fortress was also used as a prison, just like Anatolian Fortress, and after the conquest of the city in 1453. Well, and finally, a more recent and great restoration, dated in 1953 to 58, gave it the aspect we can admire now and turned it into a museum. Together with 7 towers fortress, yani 7 kuleler kalesi, da zindanları olarak da bildiğimiz 7 kuleler kalesi ve Anatolian Fortress, Rumeli Hisarı is thus part of the Fortress Museums of Istanbul. Okay, and this is the end of my 4th lesson this week, and in my next lesson, I'm going to talk about the Seven Towers Fortress, its other name is Seven Towers Dungeon, Yedi Kuleler Kalesi ya da Yedi Kuleler Zindanı. Arkadaşlar, zindanları biliyorsunuz. Okay, and until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye, see you.